As cold as lukewarm ice. Okay, fine. So you're not foreigner.
Right,
but you're definitely not a foreigner.
No.
So we're kind of flipped the.
No more Mr. MAGA. Let's get
now. Okay, so a lot of things going on. I want to talk about this Coach Miller thing going on.
I guess so. We talk about it again because he came out and straight denied it. He said, I absolutely have no knowledge of which they speak. And it sounded very legalese, but he's taken the offensive position as far as defense goes. He's coming out and saying that they are called it defamatory, called false, that. So, I mean, Miller said this is untrue. I listened to his statements, man. I watched him say it.
Right. I seen him say it too. But here's a bigger very underlying issue, is that if ESPN is found out to have done this to get ratings, it's all about ratings, right? It's all about ratings. It's all about bringing up
clicks,
who's good,
clicks,
who's bad.
Nielsen's, the old Nielsen's, buddy.
Yeah, once you start unrolling the Nielsen canvas and you're talking about corruption in the NCAA, if you're the person that's being thrown under the bus and ESPN did it unnecessarily, if that's found to be true, I guarantee you there's going to be a multi-million-dollar lawsuit from Coach Miller to ESPN. I guarantee it will happen.
Well, I guess, and I always reference the guys that I like, and I do like Whitlock and Cowherd, and I was listening to them going, recent misreporting that has been exposed by the media. Think about the Rolling Stone piece about the claims of sex assault that were proven incorrect after this big, huge piece runs in Rolling Stone, and everybody takes it at face value when it comes out because we assume that they've vetted it properly.
Right.
But in modern times, people are quick to get stories out. They're quick for the clickbait. This is the new culture, especially with sports and politics. So I would say they may have a point there that, though they didn't necessarily say, neither of those guys said, what he's saying is untrue. They're saying that nowadays you can't always take even ESPN at face value because they're proven to be false as far as rushing to make claims sometimes instead of doing their homework.
Well, and that's what you have to do. If you're a part of media, you can't report things that you don't unequivocally know about. They were quoted as stating, we were talking about this last week, how he was probed in an FBI sting and had him on a recording saying that he was going to pay Aiden, that he paid Aiden $100,000 to stay, or $200,000, something to that effect, which is illegal regardless of the amount. However, more importantly, is that when he was on air just the other day talking about how I refute all these charges, this was not me, I was not doing it, that sounded pretty direct. And just looking at his body language, looking at his eyes,
he looked pretty emphatic, man.
He looked honest.
Emphatic, like somebody would. However, I know a lot of people that will go after the fine print of allegations to defend themselves, and I know it's kind of human nature, so I don't say that as in, I'm one of those people that wouldn't do it. I think most people knee-jerk to that when they know they've been caught in something. And if there's an allegation and you can poke a hole in any little part of it, that's where you'll start before you just own up. And this may be Miller's version of that. Kind of my gut feeling when I watched him. He seemed real riled up and appropriately, emphatic, as I said. But I also assume if there's been an FBI investigation, there's probably some truth to this. And if ESPN had enough nerve to put it out, there's obviously some truth. And they came right out again and said, we stand by our reporting or whatever. So, I mean, there's obviously some facet of truth to this. I just think Miller, like most people, doesn't want to lose his job yet. Probably thinks they can at least get through this season before any real repercussions come of this. Kind of maybe looking at the short term, like, man, if we could somehow miraculously win the tournament this year or something, even if they vacate that title later, at least that'll temporarily boost my stock or make people think that I'm still a good coach, even though I got caught up in all this. And granted, as far as scandals go, this is not like a lot of the other stuff that we've seen recently, like Rick Pitino or something. It's not like that at all.
No.
I mean, granted, Rick Pitino is probably doing the same type of stuff and helping kids get to boosters to get money for this and that. I mean, This is the culture, Rudy. It's what I was saying to you last time I was on the show. Mm-hmm. People from the old school, friends of mine that live in Redondo Beach that are retired athletes will say, man, back in the old days in college, this is just how it was. Everybody had boosters putting money in your hands, a couple $100 in your pocket or whatever. And
Right.
of course, if you snitched on them and told, you were out the club forever. So this is just something that was known. You kept your mouth shut. If that's how you had your weekend money or whatever, that's how you were able to do things, was off of boosters.
Well, look, the bottom, there's two sides to that coin. First of all, whether or not Coach Miller will be found guilty, if the University of Arizona will also be found guilty, there's that side of it. And if they are, what are the repercussions? If they end up going to the Sweet 16 or go to the Final Four, I don't think they'll go to Final
how
Four,
it is. They'll just vacate their title,
right?
Vacate their season's wins or whatever.
If you win a title, that becomes the runners-up title, or they just don't give one out at all. But how does that look in NCAA books? I mean, vacated win. Well, who won that? So you have all these teams. By the way, I'm covering San Diego March Madness in 2 weeks.
I saw that online. So you're going to be there doing your Cubby reporting right there, huh?
Yeah, I'm going to be
No doubt.
there, and then I'm going to go to Staples Center and cover whoever's left over in a separate conference, from a separate conference inside the Staples Center. So I'll be interviewing a lot of NCAA.
Where are the
players.
finals going down this year, Rudy? I don't even know.
The finals are going down in, I believe it's San Antonio.
Okay.
San Antonio.
That
And of
sounds
course,
right.
you have the NFL draft going on in Texas. So big month for the state of Texas. You know what they say, all my exes live in Texas.
Right.
Well, your ex could be your draftee partner.
So I know we've been bagging on the NCAA, and rightfully so, because the NCAA is full of it, man. But I'll give it up to the teams that are looking like they could possibly contend for this year's college championship. Who do you got, man? I mean, there's probably only the same handful or so and then a couple dark horses, but I mean, who you got?
Well, tonight you have North Carolina against Duke. Now, these are crosstown rivals. They've been probably one of the best cross-rivalry teams in the NCAA this year. NC's looking for the sweep if they their season record. So if they win tonight, that means they take ownership and own Duke, just like they did, last year. Arizona, Wildcats have an opportunity, but again, talking about them, and even if they do win, even if this is found to be a massively much larger situation than it is at this point, if they're found to be guilty, whatever wins that they accrue could be vacated.
If anything, this kind of scandal's got to galvanize them emotionally down there at Arizona. If they have any guts at all, this should be the appropriate kick in the guts to get them fired up for the tourney. And I would say there's a punk rock mentality when you know that you're kind of the bad boys of the league. And if I were Miller, I would surely vamp on that in my coaching rhetoric. I would say, look, they all think we're bad. Look, they all think I'm a villain now and blah, blah, blah. Kind of like when Kobe had to kind of own his villain status and quit playing the hero ball anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe that's what Miller should do right now. I mean, I think that's a decent strategy as far as I'm concerned.
I'm telling you, there's an old statement, you've probably heard this, that no bad press. It's
right.
Because any press is good press. So if you're
and
in
again,
the news
this is
for bad
not like a
reasons,
sex assault scandal. I mean, let me just say that again. This is not hookers. This is not, drugs. This is giving a guy money that's one of the top 5 prospects in the country.
Right, but paying him to play is illegal in the NCAA.
I mean, I understand this, Rudy. I'm just saying, as far as scandals go,
this
is not like shock your grandma kind of scandal to me.
It's like, hello, Mom, I'm on YouTube.
You could tell your grandmother this, and she wouldn't even begin to blush, dude. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, you're definitely right.
It's not appalling. There's nothing appalling about this to me. If anything, it's like all this other stuff politically, like the Me Too movement or something. All it's doing is exposing what we've already known exists. That's all that the Me Too movement is now. Like, men got away with sex harassment in the job place for a long time, Rudy. Now they don't. And all the old stuff they've done, it's coming back around.
Yeah.
Because it's not like you didn't know it wasn't right, guys. You got trained. Any job that's worth its salt gave you sex harassment training. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So all it's doing is exposing what you already knew was wrong, and it's coming to light. And really, that's what the NCAA is going to continue to have happen to them until this problem is rectified. And the problem is they're making all the money off of guys that are called student athletes, as if they're there to be students. And granted, I'm not hating on you athletes that are. I know there are some smart guys out there. I'm sorry that you got swept up in that blanket stereotype right there. Guys that are smart, that are going to school and playing a sport. Got it. But we're talking about the dudes making all the money for the March Madness TV ratings, etc. The billions and billions that I referenced last week. Those guys deserve a cut. They deserve a cut. They're not the rowing team that no one cares about that's also a student athlete. I understand that. I'm sorry if this offends you guys.
Or the polo team, for that matter. But on your point, me and Eric Dickerson, Hall of Fame Rams, we were going back and forth on Twitter the other day, and he says, look, these guys are 18 years old and they're adults. Look, age does not mean you're an adult. So let me just put that right out there, right there. Are they legal to make their own decisions? Absolutely. Can they get it? Can they make the right decision? Now, look, the only way they can do that is if they're finance majors, business management majors, and let's be honest here, there aren't a lot of those. Why? Because they want to take the easiest classes to fly through, play their sport, be
and
great
because
at their
they've been ushered through high school and junior high and every other level of education because they're good at playing a sport, and nobody ever wants to hold these kids accountable for their schoolwork. That's on their teachers. That's on their coaches. That's on their parents. That's on the principals of the school. All of them.
Well, the NCAA needs to just change their rules and give these guys a cut and move on with the rest of their life, move on as a $9.6 billion business that the NCAA is.
You know what it really is? It's kind of like any of the civil rights issues that people have faced in the workforce specifically. You know, it used to be way more, you know, of a caste system, if you will, where the rich really had the poor cogs in the machine getting very little and no extra benefits and yada, yada. And slowly, legally, it's been made, you know, the minimum wage has been brought up, and there have been more, you know, insurances for the lower and middle class. Right. I think that's what's going to happen here with these student athletes if they continue this system in any feasible shape at all. Because we've even got, you know, Barack Obama and other people now proposing a developmental league for these students athletes instead of continuing this farce. I mean, and even Obama is saying this. We're not talking about just like, you know, Skip Bayless here or something. We're talking about Obama now, like weighing in. We all realize there's a problem. You are sending a mixed message to these student athletes to say that you are not supposed to be paid and it's wrong and you're bad if you get any money whatsoever for this, while they break bread off you. Everyone from the coach to the chancellor to the deans, they're all making big money. They get big bonuses every year, and you know
these coaches get multi-million-dollar contracts. I think they're probably some of the highest paid. Coach Krzyzewski of Duke, probably one of the coaching contracts, and he's making $1 million. Look, Wade is one of the winningest coaches in NCAA history. The problem that I have is that you're giving all these coaches all this bread, all this money, all this cheese, and all of a sudden these kids are left to fend for themselves by a court of law or utilizing my image without my consent.
And we're supposed to watch while these coaches hem and haw and cluck their tongue at a kid taking $100,000. That's one of the top 5 ranked players in the country, as if people wouldn't tune in to watch this guy, as if Nielsen ratings and sales and etc. for the NCAA aren't based around this guy as one of their main pieces. This is not some random side piece. And they're like, oh, that's just a travesty. And I'm like, okay, Coach K, with your $7 million this year. Okay.
Right.
Well,
and
he probably gave it to his because, again, most of these kids, they're not coming from rich families.
No.
Most of them, if they're not Steph Curry or whoever, they're not coming from rich families.
Well, I was just talking to Quan Zimmerman. He was eating ramen.
Right.
Okay. He paid his own tuition. He was living in the dorms and not so pleasurable experiences, while all these guys who were Sigma, you know, Phi, if that's even a fraternity, I think I'm thinking of Hi Phi, but living in some type of dorm situation where they have pledges and things of that nature, and hazing goes on. We're not going to even go on that tangent because hazing is wrong, bullying is wrong, it's all wrong. And I think the NCAA has
I do want to circle back around to Jonathan Martin in a minute, but let's keep going this direction.
Right. So when you look at the rules that are in place right now, you cannot pay a player, bottom line. But there have been players, we talked about this last week, I'm just going to kind of rehash for those that don't know, for those that have not listened to last week's show, that you have players that are coming up out of the woodwork saying, well, this, I was paid this amount of money. I was paid this amount of money. Stephon Marbury, all kinds of other ex-NCAA players who play their time in the NBA.
Well, I thought about Reggie Bush, too. Think about what a big to-do they made about Reggie Bush. And, again, it was like over a guy that was going to be his agent, who was a drug dealer guy, who fronted him money that he used to get his mama home because she was poor.
Right.
And a truck, an old beater Toyota truck. Like, he didn't buy a Maybach, people. He bought an old used truck so he could drive around L.A., which is a big place where you kind of need transportation.
Yeah.
That's all that Reggie Bush truly took from this cat. And that got his Heisman Trophy taken away from him, Rudy.
I look at cases like Reggie Bush, and I think to myself, the problem with Reggie Bush is that he was not, at least from what I heard in all the reports, he was not academically eligible to play.
Well, there's always that, man. And again, we're addressing two separate issues. First, boosters give lots of money to these athletes.
They do.
Secondly, they always help them cheat on their tests or, give them people to write their papers or there's all these other, ways they enable these students to get around having to actually be good at school.
Right.
Like, the whole point is you got to be out there for the game. They don't, whatever they got to do.
Right. Right. No, and again, I'm not saying there are obviously two sides of the coin here. They either deserve the money, NCAA changes the rules and they get paid, or they don't get paid. The NCAA changes the infrastructure and the mindset and the culture to say, you know what, maybe we don't need to give these coaches multi-million-dollar contracts because we need to get some of that money to save back. Maybe put it in a fund. Maybe even lower tuition across the country. Maybe give those kids a lower interest rate. You're right on their school loans. There's $1 million that you could give back to help these kids that are barely working just to pay for part of their tuition. Then what do they do the other time? It's a struggle, man. The struggle is real. You're going to find a struggle throughout the NCAA. It's not just because it's Los Angeles. It's not Notre Dame. Because it's Washington. This is global.
I could hear like my at the point. You got to figure no shit was going to be easy, boy. I think these athletes should get their education. Of course, I think they should utilize every last dollar that they've been given. What a gift that you've been opportunity to get a first at these schools.
Right.
They should work a couple extra jobs. I went to work jobs while she was in school. I worked jobs while I was in school. And got to flip burgers.
Yeah.
You.
Right.
Everybody has to learn how to humble themselves and do whatever.
Right.
However, you're a student athlete and you know that what you are doing is just you are in a separate than the rest of the students at this school to me. I feel like there are all these other sports that get little to no TV time or, media coverage. And then there's football and there's basketball and then a few others, but that's really it.
But the business side to the NCAA is ESPN paying the NCAA to stream these football games, basketball games. The business side of it says we need to make money. How do we do it? If you're ESPN, you're going to do the very same thing. If you're the NCAA, what do you do to boost ratings?
I just think it's revenue sharing, bro. It's the same thing that the pros have had to already learn to do. And now the students are probably, what it's going to end up being eventually, Rudy. It's like everything. People boycott, they strike. These kids are going to figure out that en masse, if they all stand down, they're going to go out and get scabs. And the scab kids that they're going to put out there are not going to be as entertaining. The ratings will dip. The pocketbook gets hit. They come around. Then there's revenue sharing. I think if there was some kind of legit revenue sharing based on their ranking, because I was trying to think, all right, how do I solve this problem? Like the first top 100 ranked in the country by, all the main institutions.
Right.
They get a certain percentage of the revenue share.
Right.
That's agreed upon by them and the NCAA. And it's based on Nielsen's and it's based on gate. How much comes in for each night in concessions and whatnot. And granted, they're splitting that with the school. They're splitting that with the TV peeps. So they're only getting a small sliver, but they get a piece of that, and it comes in like residuals.
Right.
The same way if you were an artist and you were getting small residual checks from concerts or album or music sales or something.
Right. I think you're onto that, and I'll even go a step further. Let's break this down even more. Each individual player, depending on how they perform for each respective position that they play, college, why, doesn't matter what division, doesn't matter what level, it doesn't matter. So take that out of the equation. What you have is students that are performing, right, that will contribute a certain amount of money
right
to towards their tuition if they're paying it. If not, they're a full-blown full-ride student for college, to give some of that money to other kids who are up-and-coming players who have shown production, and to share that amount of money with them. And I think that could be one way to help build the incentive to get even more kids to play to get to the next level, and that's obviously the NFL. I think that could be something that would be powerful. It would work. It's logistic, and it makes sense. Who is out there? We're right here on Paramount. We're live on Facebook at the Rude Dog Show. This is Rudy Reyes, joined by Tucker Dale Booth. Let's kind of jump backwards here because I want to move back around, and then we can talk about the hazing and bullying thing, which Daquan Zimmerman certainly enlightened me a lot about during our conversation. But right now, the top 5 are Villanova, Virginia, Purdue, Duke, and Cincinnati. Wildcats, Cincinnati. Do I think all of these contenders are going to go to maybe the Final Four, top out? Maybe Cincinnati loses in a last-point shot in their schedule, which doesn't look very favorable to them. Could they be on their way out? Could they be on the bubble? And then you have your dandy teams like North Carolina and Duke. Even though Duke has a better record overall in the ACC, they just seem to be playing and be much more consistent down stretch, winning the games they needed to win and not losing the games that they came so close to losing. So between Villanova, Virginia, Purdue, and Duke, who are your top 4?
I keep thinking about it because I've said whenever I'm trying to think about sports, playoffs and whatnot, and trying to do the odds in my mind, I'm always going to go with teams with tradition of excellence, Rudy. So even if they haven't had the greatest season, that doesn't matter if I'm trying to think in my mind about playoffs. Usually I'm going to favor teams that have won a lot or gotten to the Final Four a lot or have, a consistent track record of being there near the end. Right. So in my mind, Duke is always going to probably be in the Final Four in my head, as long as they're having a year where they're obviously above average, and they are. Right. So, I'll put Duke in there. Kansas is another one like that. Jayhawks. Again, I know they've got flaws. I've seen them play more than once this year. I understand. But we're talking playoffs. We're not talking about the regular season. And it's really funny to remind kids of that when I'm coaching my son's basketball team. Playoffs are a different deal, kids. Like there's working in the regular season, and the playoffs, everything, the pressure goes up.
It changes.
So, teams that have been there before, coaches that are good at being in that position, they're going to have the advantage there. I like Nova this year because Nova is not one of these teams that's consistently in the mix, but I'm telling you, Nova has this way of coming back around every so often. And I just got a premonition the other day, so I throw them in there. I just got a hot feeling about Nova. So, I could be wrong, of course, but they have a tradition of being awesome every so often, not all the time. But again, that's a tradition.
Right. It's not a Duke consistency. It's not a North Carolina consistency. But they find themselves in that top 5 conversation.
And they don't fear the Giants, man. They're one of these schools they've won. Rough. So they've got these memories of being awesome. So that is, again, a traditional swag.
Absolutely right.
I said before, and I'll repeat it, my 4th one that I really like wasn't even – since seeing all these teams, I feel like they fall away in the 8 or the 4 or whatever. I don't feel like they're there at the end. So we're talking about teams that could conceivably win the whole thing.
Right.
I kind of think because of all the scandal, I like Zona, dude. I'm going to throw them out there as my dark horse. They're obviously the dark horse with all the pressure on them.
No, you love
Coach
the dark
Miller's
horse.
got all the fire around him. That's the point.
Yeah, right.
That can go 2 ways. They can wither and Zona, or they've been known to be like ranked highly and then flame out in the first round or whatever. Right. But they have all won. They have championship pedigree. This is not a school that hasn't been there. Lute Olson obviously cast this big, huge, Bobby Knight-like shadow over their team.
Exactly. But Arizona is the only Pac-12 5. That's it. There is no other Pac-12 team top 25. Not UCLA, not the Sun Devils.
We got a little hope for USC just being on the bubble. Like my wife, she's like, really? They're actually in the discussion? I'm like, that's the point. Like USC fans and alumni don't even know how the basketball team is doing until they've made, playoff consideration.
Until they get to March Madness and they actually
then suddenly they show
genre.
Up acting like they care.
Right.
Because most years USC basketball, and I've been, because my wife is an alum, not a whole lot to watch, kids.
Yeah, no, there isn't a whole lot to watch. And I guarantee you, Lynn Swan, the athletic director, he's
trying to change that.
He's trying to change the culture, but I don't know that you can. USC is still very inconsistent.
Again, championship dynasty pedigree is Bruins, and that's crosstown rivals. And the thing is, the reason why, fans, in case you don't know why there's such a big civil war between UCLA and USC, because, there's a civil war between every crosstown rival. Yep. But the real deal is that USC wishes they were good at basketball, and UCLA has been the standard since John Wooden.
Yeah. Yep.
And then UCLA wishes they were good at football, and they are not even close to as good on any given year as USC is, even on an off year for USC now. Like a year where they have no shot of being in the championship discussion, they'll still smack down the Bruins football team on principle.
Well, this is the way you settle it. You take USC's football team against USC's basketball team.
And you make them play the opposite sport.
Right.
Both teams have to play the opposite sport.
Right. So that's how that team owns Los Angeles.
That's right.
Bottom line.
Football team's got to play a full court basketball game against the other football team's best 5.
Yep. You switch it out.
And they'll have the backup 5 because you got 11. So you get 11, 5, 6 on the bench.
Oh no, let's make this a little more interesting. They have to go back to back to back to back to back. So 4 games in football, right? So you go a 4-game set,
right?
Then you go to a 4-game set on a weekend, right? 2 days in the weekend, 4 games in basketball, 4 games in football. We're not talking full-blown 15-minute quarters stuff, like maybe 5 or 10-minute.
Dude, we could solve the Civil War in 2 days.
Seriously,
2 days, people.
We can crush this crosstown rivalry. But let's kind of switch gears because I was watching the NFL Combine this morning, and Sam Darnold doesn't want to throw at the Combine. I have a problem with that for a lot of reasons. A lot of reasons. Now, hold on. In all fairness, I interviewed Sam Darnold. I talked to him. I met him. Great kid. He's a big guy. One of those Ben Roethlisberger-esque kind of hard to tear down kind of guys. Nowhere near as accurate as Ben was, even as a Miami Red Hawk. Go Red Hawks in Ohio. But more importantly, the fact that he was not willing to showcase his talent at the Combine says that maybe it was more about not wanting to embarrass himself by throwing inaccurate passes. I'm not saying he doesn't have a big arm. He does. He has a great big arm. Again, Ben Roethlisberger-esque kind of great arm. But it's the accuracy that I think was something that he shied away from, saying, no, I don't want to do that. I don't want to be that person.
I think he probably was told by whoever his handlers are, because it's not like they haven't already taken a look at what he can do. The people that are managing him, that are handling his marketability.
Yeah, but Josh Rosen is there. Josh Rosen was playing today. He was throwing today. He was throwing on the run today. He did all the exercises today they wanted him to do.
Josh Rosen is confident. Sam Darnold's coming off some, confidence shaking stuff. And granted, he's still highly ranked, Rudy, but remember, Sam Darnold's last impression that was made on everyone was not a good one. And Sam Darnold's impression that he made on me when I saw him play last year, and I mentioned this on an older podcast.
Right.
We took my son. He's now old enough. He wants to go see a football game at mom's school, and she loves going. So we went and saw them play Oregon State. And it's Oregon State, Rudy. We're not talking about like one of the big dogs here. We're not talking about Notre Dame or whatever, one of the big dogs on the schedule.
Okay.
And he struggled, bro. Sam Darnold struggled.
He did.
And I say before the game, Sam Darnold's highly touted, and they're saying he might go top 5 and blah, blah, blah. He looked like he was lost for large periods of this game against Oregon State. And I know this is not the only game that this has happened, because I've heard the reports, I've read. I stay up with this stuff. You know, we poll for the Trojans.
Right.
All I kept saying to them was, from what I saw, and I said this on the train coming home to all the drunk people on the train, dude, that guy should stay. That guy shouldn't go.
Oh, absolutely.
If it were me, dude, it's USC. This is fun. You're in LA, dude. I mean, you're the king of the school.
Yeah. Exactly.
For another year.
Stay there.
Develop, like you said, get more accurate.
Like
you said, you're not accurate. Get more accurate.
Yep.
Get your confidence up.
Yep, exactly.
Get a win in a bowl game instead of coming off of getting spanked and taking that into the next level. Like, that isn't running a little bit on your confidence. And he doesn't seem like a dude that's good with a chip on his shoulder. He seems like a real golden boy who's used to everything being real static and good, like a Goff or something. I mean, Goff at least spent like most of college at Berkeley before he left.
Yeah. He realized
smartly he stayed.
He realized the inaccuracies. He worked on the things that he recognized were not in his favor. He stayed throughout, and now look at him.
And he's running a successful football team as a second-year player. I think Darnold has that potential. So, again, I'm not trashing Sam Darnold. Like you said,
not at all.
Great body. When he's on, he's pretty clutch.
Yeah.
But granted, there are moments where he's like the reverse of clutch. Like, he's the reason that you're losing games.
Right. Kind
of anti-clutch.
Some of the pressure situations that I've seen him under is all about inaccuracies. He doesn't get the ball off in a timely manner. And when he does, it's an errant throw, and it ends up being picked off.
Well, I'm saying there are quarterbacks that aren't that great, Rudy, but they're decent at just like managing a football game and like, eliminating mistakes, and they're good at carrying water even when they're not throwing well and they're not accurate or whatever. Like I'm thinking Dilfer or something in his Super Bowl. He could barely hit a pass, but he was good at handing a ball off, and he's good at running the clock, and he didn't throw a lot of picks and so forth.
Yeah.
Now there are quarterbacks that are gunslinging all the time. I think Darnold wishes that he could be one of these gunslingers that's out there just going renegade all the time like a Rodgers. They all do. But the thing is, if you're not, then you really owe it to yourself to kind of figure out, am I going to be just a good game manager that eliminates turnovers? Because if I'm turning the ball over, like we just said, I am making this team lose. I'd rather be that quarterback that doesn't win the game, but also doesn't lose the game, than the guy who absolutely one or the other, wins or loses it for him.
Yeah, no, you're right. And that's where game management comes into play. Jim Everett even said, look, he says he will be fine at the next level. Okay, well, that's great. Jim knows what he's talking about.
But Jim was a dude that rolled the dice. So, again, Jim knows the dice roller when he sees one, Rudy. Jim would live or die by every big gunslinging throw. I used to love watching Jim, so I can say, Jim, I love watching you, bro. You were entertainment. You were box office, because I knew that every week it was either going to be a big win or a big flame out. It was one or the other, Jim. That was exciting. That's what a fan, especially a kid, that's what we want to see. We want to see dudes rolling them dice.
Yep, exactly.
But if I'm a coach, I'd be going freaking crazy watching that all the time.
Well, I guarantee Clay Helton had his share of wanting to pull hair out of his head if he had any, like I don't. And the biggest issue that Clay Helton had, I met Clay Helton as well, very nice guy, probably one of the best coaches in the NCAA, very well-spoken, well-versed, and I didn't have a chance to ask him how Sam was doing. This before the season ever started last year. But more importantly, Darnold exhibited confidence. He exhibited the willingness to do whatever he had to do to help his team win. But the real story, and I'm not knocking Sam either. He has tons of upside. He has the ability to excel at the next level. I think he'll be a stud if he gets the right people around him to help him correct those pressure situations where he seems to get rid of the ball in an untimely manner.
But Rudy, if Oregon State Beavers defense is stymieing him, what is he going to do against your Steelers? What is he going to do against the Ravens? What is he going to do against New England?
The offensive line. The offensive line didn't do him any favors at times. They looked soft on the pass rush. The pancake blocks were not there.
You think Cleveland Browns' offensive line is going to be helping him out? I mean, that's what I'm saying is you ain't landing anywhere you want to land, Sam.
Not going to Cleveland. I'm sorry. If anybody is, it's Josh Rosen.
So Rosen's the new golden boy now. Is that it?
Or
Is he the new number one? Is he the new obvious number one?
It's going to be the new 3. And
Baker Mayfield is going to be in the top 3?
Mayfield's in the top 3. There's so much buzz going around him. I don't know if it's because the buzz he created when he grabbed his crotch on the sideline or what he said to players or coaches.
It's so funny. Baker Mayfield, every time I say his name or see him speak or watch him play, I think of one guy, and you know who I'm going to say. Johnny Manziel. That's it. Manziel, however you say his name.
Well,
Johnny Football. I think of you, Baker, and Johnny in the same breath. And the thing is, you're both undersized. Right. You're both gunslingers.
Yes.
You both talk a lot of smack and have party boy ways.
Well,
Dude,
they both did great in college as well.
But I'm saying, why on earth, as a coach, am I taking on all those risks? You're not big. You play with a lot of heart, but you also play a little irresponsible. You are irresponsible personally, for sure, and it's been documented. Mm-hmm. You also love to talk big smack, which is probably going to reflect poorly on us at some point in the media. Wow, Baker, you've got like 4 strikes already if I'm your scout. Dude, and granted, you got the a lot of accolades. You've got, a really nice highlight reel, and I imagine that you could prove a lot of doubters wrong, because like a lot of you little guys with all that heart, I know it ain't the size of the dog in the fight, whatever. I know this. I know it. So I understand that you could prove me wrong, but I will say this: you keep on partying this young, you're gonna end up like Johnny. You're gonna end up like Johnny because it has nothing to do with your talent. It has nothing to do with how good of a quarterback you could or couldn't be. It's that if you party this much now, I swear, dude, wait till you're done. Like, just put a pin in it. Go win all your rings and then party for the next 15 years if you want. Now, I swear that's the way to go.
I was listening to the NFL Network this morning. They had all quarterbacks, tight ends, wide receivers out in the field in Indianapolis playing there. And the NFL Network was doing a really good job. And it's not that they were trying to quiet his antics. They were just merely stating, look, where do you feel he will end up landing? And it was a top 3. And sadly enough, he's performed on the field, outside of personal antics, like just that. Johnny Manziel was not a top 3 guy. I never seen him as a top 3 guy. The conversation that the Browns scouting coaches had with, and I've said this on the show before, the conversation they had with their the head coach for Texas A&M and other coaches. Oh, he's great at football. Well, hold on. What do you? That's it? That's all you got?
I don't think your neighbor's dog likes Baker Mayfield, man. He's been picking up a lot since we started talking. I think the dog is echoing my sentiments.
Maybe even.
But I feel you. But he's not Johnny. I just mean it's the party boy thing. And right. Granted, I understand a lot of these cats in all pro sports party a lot. I got it. And of course, it's about learning how to party like a grown up versus like a kid. Learning how to have the right kind of entourage around you to clean up your messes if there are any, so forth.
Right.
So Baker Mayfield, maybe you can just find the right handlers and get away with it. But what I'm saying is I see Johnny-like tendencies there because it's the combination of that love of the spotlight versus the party boy. Because the spotlight and the party boy, they cancel each other out. They end up assassinating one another. Right. And it's both, because the party boy hates the spotlight when the spotlight gets too focused on the ugly side.
Right.
And the spotlight, that's where it shines the brightest, is at the ugliest, nastiest stuff. That's what the spotlight's looking for.
Right.
It's going to be a battle at some point. Ask Johnny. Ask guys like Johnny.
Oh, he knows. He knows full well trying to get back to the NFL. He was even quoted as saying that he would play for free. Where have I heard that before? So many other players who've exited themselves out of the NFL have wanting to come back in to play for free because they want to play.
I think of Ezekiel Elliott and all the flack he caught in college and how everyone turned a blind eye to it. And Dallas, again, took a flyer on yet another guy with questionable character. And then what happens? They get burnt. And, dude, if you aren't telling me that Zeke's suspension wasn't at least 3/4 of the reason they're not in the playoffs this year, Rudy. I mean, come on, man. Well, that was such a humongous gaping hole in their team. That hurt them right away as soon as he was suspended. Their offensive production dipped. Everything dipped.
They're the stats for completion for the offensive production things that you tried to see Zeke Elliott do, you couldn't see predominantly because he wasn't on the field to do it. He wasn't on the field to exhibit. So now you have a quarterback, second year, trying to get out of the pocket, make things happen. Reminds me of Russell Wilson. Trying to get out of the pocket, make things happen, makes great throws when the receiver catches the ball. And, of course, those are great plays. But then if it doesn't work, now they're a bonehead. And that's exactly what happened in the season. But more importantly, Johnny Manziel, I think, reminds me of Johnny Manziel. And I think Baker Mayfield's approach to getting into the pros by those not off-field antics, on-field antics, we have no idea what he's done in the off-field.
Well, and I guess I'm not trying to insinuate that Baker Mayfield has the same off-the-field issues that Zeke does. But, again, I reference Zeke more because Party Boy, he had a reputation with the press and the scouts before he came into the league for being a wild party guy from his school that had been in some hot water at the school. So what I'm saying is, if we see early signs of the Party Boy, and we know they love grabbing the cameras and playing to the cameras, and Baker Mayfield surely fits that profile, and Zeke did too, and Johnny did too.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm a scout for the team and I'm the team writing a check of the size they will be writing to this young man, I would be saying to him, we have to have some assurances here that you will not be out getting hammered all the time and making us look bad in the press and giving us reasons to doubt that you are going to stay focused on the task at hand. Because, again, we're trying to win football games. And if any team is not, Baker, you don't want to be there anyway.
Scouts make or break what teams get even discussed or even talked about in an NFL Red Room, right? Because of a variety of reasons. Maybe this team is so desperate, Browns, at getting a quarterback in there. How many other starting 34 or something to that effect, starting quarterback for the Cleveland Browns. And then certainly they looked over his partying-esque, his spotlight, his desire
Cleveland,
for
are you so foolish that you would take a flyer on the same type of guy with the same type of megalomaniacal personality with the same type of party boy stuff? If I'm you, I would just keep doing O-line. Like get someone that turns into a Hall of Famer. Start thinking conservative for once. Don't always get the quarterback that gets blown out because they don't have an O-line. Like, get an O-line first.
Well, last year, my topic of conversation, now the Browns have a ton of picks right now. First round, second round, I think fourth and sixth.
Couple O-lines, a D-back or something.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
You get a running back. You take that number 2 pick or 3 pick, and you kind of drop it down. Get some more guys, get some quality guys. You have nothing to lose from it.
Build your secondary a bit, all of it, right?
Year in and year out.
They get a quarterback that gets hurt.
A quarterback
that gets hurt.
What's not
or disgraced.
Not only that, but he looks bad because the offensive line is not very good. DeShone Kizer is exactly that.
Or they bring in damaged goods like Robert Griffin or whatever. It's always something where they bring in a quarterback that gets trashed because they don't have any help.
Right.
Dude, get the help. Draft the help. Cleveland. Note to Cleveland.
Well. Here's the thing. Now, I know we've had this conversation before, and I've talked about the Browns in a myriad of ways, and they got John Dorsey, the GM, there, and that's great. And they have former offensive coordinator Todd Haley, who is okay and at times looks very good, only because the play that he called actually worked and Ben was able to execute. Okay, fine. Wonderful. But from a drafting standpoint, you don't draft the best available when the quarterback you have was a first overall pick for you, for your organization, for the guy under center that is sending the spotlight to you. Don't draft a number 1 quarterback, Cleveland Browns. Get somebody else.
I agree. And, I'll go one further. I saw some of the footage of, is it Saquon? Is that how you say his first name?
Saquon Barkley.
Saquon.
Out of Penn State.
And I obviously knew he was a highly touted offensive specimen this year.
Right.
But I was watching some of the combine footage of him on his vertical leap and all the other things that he does well. His 40 speed. Whew. I mean, that's a no-brainer. If you need someone to jumpstart your offense, he could be a Cordell Stewart. You could straight turn this cat into all 3 things, dude. He could be a slot back that could play wide receiver and throw some passes, and you probably put him in on defense, man. I mean, I swear, this cat looks like he could be like a punt returner or whatever, dude.
Mm-hmm.
You could make this cat everything.
Right.
Like in one guy.
But again, this is an offensive line that's not very good. But when you talk about Saquon Barkley and what he did at Penn State, the guy is just an absolute beast. I mean, he will tear you up. He has the speed. He has the in cut. He has the out cut. He has a personality. And with that personality, lets other people jump on that bandwagon, the positive bandwagon. It's, I could do anything bandwagon. I think Saquon Barkley is certainly going to be that number one running back.
But if I were Cleveland, I would think more about a cat like that if I'm thinking offense. Because, again, quarterbacks can be traded for. You know, there are going to be some guys looking for work, too. I'm thinking Nick Foles. I'm thinking, other guys like Keenum. Guys that are good, that are proven winners. Right, that are proven leaders, but that are in awkward positions with their teams. I mean, gosh, if I'm them, why don't I go after Nick, who doesn't want to play that much longer? I mean, it's been reported Nick wants to become a pastor, and Nick Foles, he wants to start his own ministry, right. And he don't want to play much longer. He wants to get like one more.
Good for him. He's got a ring.
Fatty contract, and then he wants to go.
And
it's also been reported he wants to start. Well, of course, he's earned it.
Right.
So, okay, Nick, go over to say like a Cleveland, and help bring them up real quick, because a Nick Foles is a perfect fit for them. Somebody that's actually been there, done that. They go get him a line, in the draft, or use the big pick on a Barkley, because I'm saying that gives Nick everything he needs. That's a guy to throw to. That's a guy to hand the ball to. That's a lot of things.
And again, even quarterbacks that are in free agency, whether you draft a quarterback or free agent quarterbacks, they're not going to want to play. Of course, draftees have no choice.
They're not going to want to play in Cleveland.
They're not going to want to play in Cleveland because the Browns refuse, and I say refuse, I mean refutably on record, have not drafted guys who are Pro Bowl candidates, guys that are okay. And now, I'm not downing the fact that these guys don't work the hardest, but if you have the first overall pick, second overall pick, third overall pick in the first round, you get a stud on that offensive line. There's so many guys out there, offensive linemen, that are so good that are being overlooked. That's where they need to start. That is exactly where they need to start. You can put any quarterback in there, and he's going to look less than human.
You know what it is, though? And it's funny because I feel like my grandfather or something, and I've been this way since I was young. I was always preaching this. Get the O-line first. Like Baltimore, where they went and got the big dude first, and then they built around, the blind side right there.
Yeah,
right? Or whatever example you want to use. Rams, I love my Rams. Shout out St. Louis Rams. Right. They got Orlando Pace, who's a Hall of Fame blocker, and they got him with a high draft pick. Yep. They weren't afraid to go after an old lineman first. In the first round before they got the splashy quarterback.
Well, I mean, and again, if you don't have the Pro Bowl caliber offensive lineman, your quarterback is going to look less than human and find himself picking grass or AstroTurf out of his mask and his face.
Whereas Orlando Pace gave Kurt Warner, who was a turtle in the pocket. I say it on here every time. That dude was a turtle.
He was.
He gave him enough time to throw.
Yep.
So
Orlando Pace, Hall of Famer.
There you go.
Yeah.
No, that's what a great blocker can do for a middle-aged man versus a young guy with all the speed and agility.
Yes, exactly. And I think an offensive line is where the Browns need to start. I don't think quarterback is the answer. This is Rudy Reyes on the Rudy Reyes Show live on Periscope. I see 3. I want to see 2003 viewers. Okay, maybe I'm being on.
Shout out Periscope. You guys have been giving a lot of love too. Shout out.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thank you so much. This is Rudy Reyes on the Rudy Reyes Show with Tucker Dale Boots, who joins me. I had another gentleman didn't call in, but that's okay. Me and Tucker know how to occupy the time and get that clock.
Oh, we can suck some oxygen out of the air, dude.
This planet has less oxygen whenever we're done with the show. Maybe there's like 2% less, or maybe 1. I don't know.
It's all right.
Anyway, we're talking sports here. We covered a variety of things. We're talking about the NFL draft.
We got to talk about my boy Tiger Woods, though, Rudy.
Arizona. Oh boy, what's the latest on Tiger?
Well, okay,
right now?
So did you follow any of the Honda Classic that he played in the last tournament in Florida?
I know that he was there. I don't remember
because last time we spoke, it was me and my son stalking him at the Genesis Open in L.A.
Yes,
which he did not make the cut for. We stalked him, but he did not make the cut.
Right. Probably because you stalked him.
Well, and because he hates Riviera. He hates it there. But you're right. It is also because he was a little unnerved by our sign.
Right.
So, okay. But he went down to Florida right away because he knew he needs to keep tuning up. And he also has declared he's going to be in the Valspar Championship. First time he's ever played in that one.
Okay.
But that's going to make the Valspar next week way more interesting.
Yeah.
But he played in Florida in the Honda Classic, which is one he would typically do if he were going to make a comeback.
Right.
And that's a Jack Nicklaus course.
That's like a staple.
It's a shorter course. Kind of think like Masters. It's shorter, but it's very hard.
Mm-hmm.
But it's all intimidating, like, water shots and all this, right? It's that kind of stuff. And wind, water shots and high winds.
Right.
But he didn't have to play driver, so he went down there, Rudy, and played a lot of irons.
Mm-hmm.
Like 1 and 2 irons and played woods and didn't play the driver all that much.
Right.
Dude, he was in contention till the very end for 4 straight days, bro. I mean, he missed a lot of birdie putts on Sunday. He probably should have made 6 out of the 8 he missed. But this guy finished it even par over 4 days in a hard tournament where, even Ricky Fowler, the defending champ, he didn't make the cut. These young guns, Dustin Johnson, he got ate up by this course.
Right.
He's number 1 in the world. People got
tough.
murdered by this course. Rory McIlroy got smashed.
Yeah.
Like +8 or something by the end.
Oh, my God.
Tiger finished it even and was right there, Rudy. I watched on Sunday. He had every opportunity to – he wasn't in the last group, but he was like second to last.
Right.
He could have put up the number. And it's at the last 3 holes at the Honda Classic are these, like the players, they're going to make or break you.
Right. Yeah.
You're either going to put up numbers or you're going to put up big, bad numbers.
Right.
He got murdered on the last couple. That's what hurt him. He was right there and he ended up at even. He dropped a couple shots.
Right.
Bro, that course is no longer than the Masters. And there's less trouble at the Masters, honestly. I've watched both courses, and I know I'm a dork about all this, dude.
Mm.
Augusta National has its challenges.
Okay.
But for a guy like Tiger who has played that course, who has won 4 times on that course, he knows that course better than he knows the Honda Classic course. It's less wind because there's trees all around it. There's not all the water. There's a little bit of water, but it's not a ton. And it's short. It's not one where he has to play driver.
Mm-hmm.
He can play woods and irons and things he's comfortable playing. Bro, believe me, the way he played, he can win the Masters this year. Dude, he was the second in the field in driving distance at 317 yards.
Understanding the course, having won at those courses, whether it's Augusta or whether it's the Valspar, regardless of whatever course it is, you find a way to build familiarity. That builds your comfort level. That way, at that point, you already know, okay, I need to use a 6-iron here. And then maybe use a putter if I know that it's a downhill slope. I know not to hit it very hard because I know that if I use that, it's not going to overshot the hole, get very close. Maybe I can go for birdie or something like that. So that's the idea. Even pros like McIlroy and Johnson, those guys may not have so much familiarity with the course, may not have won many tournaments playing that exact course. Who's to say that Tiger wasn't? And me and you've spoken about this on a myriad of occasions. I've spoken about this way before we were talking about it, but I see a comeback-esque in Tiger Woods, not only from the wins that he creates, but it's what he uses as not only to help him win those, but to put him in contention to win those. Do you see?
I think it's the same Tiger mentally, and that's where golf is so different than these other competitive sports. Mm-hmm. And granted, they're in greater shape than they've ever been in golf history. So granted, guys, you're doing a good job of being fit.
Right.
But you don't have to be fit physically as much as you have to be fit mentally. And granted, knowledge of the course, like you just said, huge advantage. Mm-hmm. Championship pedigree, like I was saying about, who I'm picking in the NCAA tournament. Mm-hmm. It's the same with these majors, man.
Right.
If you've won multiple majors on this course,
right.
This isn't like the U.S. Open where the course changes every year. It's always at Augusta.
Right.
You've been playing this course since the late 90s, 20-plus years here.
Yeah.
That's more knowledge than Rory. That's more knowledge than DJ. They're still trying to win a Masters.
Yeah.
It's the only one Rory doesn't have.
Right.
It's that will complete his Grand Slam where you win all 4 of these guys.
Right.
But I'm saying DJ, he won a U.S. Open that got the major monkey off his back, but he doesn't have the Masters monkey off his back.
No.
And again, if I'm trying to look at who I would pick right now, Rudy, to win the Masters, because it's coming right up, April, bro.
Yeah,
1 month away. For all us golf fans, it's like the beginning of the new year, dude. A glorious new golf day is dawning right now. But I'm saying, if I were picking my odds-on favorites, if I'm in Vegas, if I was putting money down today, buddy, I would pick Tiger. Not just because I'm a fan, but because I've seen really, really positive signs and championship pedigree. I would also think Bubba Watson is a safe pick right now. Absolutely. Again, not just because I'm a fan, but because he's hot. He's hot. He just won.
He won. Yeah.
And guess what? He's won 2 times at Augusta. So again, if we're picking on championship pedigree, Bubba has closed the deal twice there before. And he's hot. He has not been hot. He's not been hot for 2 years.
No.
He's hot now. I was watching him this weekend in Mexico. He's still hot.
Yeah.
He came out firing. He was like at -7 on like the first day out in Mexico, bro. He's still hot.
Yeah.
So, granted, I'd pick a Tiger. I'd pick a Bubba before I'd pick either Rory or DJ.
Mm-hmm.
They're not as hot right now. Maybe Justin Thomas. He's pretty hot right now. He just won the Honda Classic.
Right.
Justin Thomas has got the major monkey off his back, winning the PGA Championship.
Mm-hmm.
But again, has not won at the Masters. I'd pick an old lion who's won there over a kid who has not won, because again, we're talking about Sunday experience there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, we got Cape Town, South Africa in the house. What up, South Africa?
Wow.
Represent. I'm telling you, Periscope.
Come down.
South Africa's got some good golf going on right now.
Yes.
Louis Oosthuizen. They're saying Oosthuizen. Again, he hasn't won a Masters, but he's come really close. You're right.
Well,
he's been right there in all majors, and he is a major champ.
Close comes between your putter and the hole you're supposed to make it in. That's as close as he's been, and he's missed. But I'll be honest with you, I think he'll get to that point. When is the big question.
They just said Ernie Els, 4-time major winner. Ernie Els, that is correct. There's somebody I would put up there before Rory and DJ, although I don't know if Ernie's won at the Masters. Again, I'm thinking specifically someone who has won on this course, because there is a spiritual connection, peeps, between that course and those who have won on it. It's crazy. If you've not won on it, it feels like you're just barely trying to like not get in the way. But when you're those people, the Jack Nicklauses, the Arnold Palmers,
those ones,
the Gary Players, those guys
stand out,
dude,
big time.
These guys that have closed, Phil Mickelson's that have closed on this course, dude. Every time you should absolutely put Phil up there with Tiger and Bubba as an odds-on favorite.
Well, Ernie Els, also a 3-time runner-up in the majors, Masters, U.S. Open, and the Open Championship. So he's
4 times, bud.
Yeah, he's right there.
Anybody that's won 4 majors, I would put in any group in a major as far as top 5 picks, But I think as far as who's hot right now, Tiger's hot right now. He was hot at the Honda Classic. He's got the Valspar. That's his final tune-up.
Yeah.
That ought to sharpen him up. Another short course, another way to play strategy ball, which I think this is the new Tiger. It's the old Tiger as far as when he knew he had to play with the irons, he would take the driver and put it away because he didn't want to use driver, and he still doesn't. But I think the new Tiger understands it's always about the mental game, Rudy.
Right.
You got to just out-strategize these cats. And the thing is, these young cats, they still get starstruck. The galleries are like 5, 6, 7 times the galleries that they get without him. Rory says that he speculates that Tiger gives up at least a stroke to a stroke and a half because of the galleries and how nerve jangling it always is. Oh, people are saying don't write off Sergio Garcia. I see you out there. You're right. That's the defending champ. Should we be writing off Sergio?
No,
he still looks pretty sharp right now. I saw him in Mexico.
Yeah.
He looks good.
Yeah, he looks good. I want to see him win the big one. I really like to see Garcia put the Hispanics back.
Well, that Masters win last year finally got the major monkey off of him, which is like 20 years of him supposed to be the other guy besides Tiger out of Europe, right?
Right.
But, now he's a major champ, and it puts him in a prestigious club. I'd say he looks sharp enough, and, being a defending champ for him. Yeah, okay, I said it. If you already are in the club, you have a championship pedigree, we should bet on you. And a defending champ like Sergio, who still looks good because I've been watching him recently.
Right.
He looks sharp. Yeah. Okay, I'll put him in the mix.
All right. We can
for
certainly
sure.
do that. Yeah,
the thing is, Sergio has won one major, but he's choked up so many other big tournaments that it's hard to forget about that with him. He's got that, like, you got to prove it a few more times to me kind of feel.
Yeah.
Like, it's great. It's like the Cubs or something. It's great that you guys did it. Now do it a couple more times, and we'll put you in the Boston Red Sox club, where you used to be the lovable losers, but now you're not.
No, now you're not.
Like Cubs, you're still in that kind of that purgatory where you did it once, but you're still those guys that last for like 90 plus years. So like, do it again,
Well, the Eagles, same conversation. They've been there, done that. Can they do it again? Can they repeat? One of the hardest things to do, and if NFL history was any indication of what teams have not been able to do, is come back and win the Super Bowl. It just doesn't usually equate. I mean, back in situations where New England Patriots were dethroned by the Philadelphia Eagles, who just played and outplayed New England in a variety of ways. But more importantly, you get the 70s Steelers in there winning back-to-back in 4 times in one.
But, I think even harder in these golf majors, because in the NFL, we're talking like 16 teams in the playoffs, right?
Right.
Mm-hmm. So you only got to beat, 4 other teams to get the ring. I mean, granted, you got to beat, however many teams you got to beat in the regular season to get there. I got that. But let's say, essentially 13 or so teams approximately.
Yeah.
Right. Now, at the Masters, Sergio Garcia is going to defend his title against 200 other people.
Right.
All of which are like the top people on the planet as of today. You either have to have a major win, or you have to be a Masters champ, or you have to be in the top 100 currently on the planet.
Right.
And they're from all over the world.
All walks of life.
And they're coming for you.
Yeah, they are.
And they know about your reputation because they've been following golf.
Yep. If you follow golf, then you can say, you know what? His swing is okay. The bend at the knees, okay, maybe not so good. He used to work on that. So if you find weaknesses in somebody else's game, that could work to your advantage, especially in a one-on-one situation in golf.
Well, these young guys don't have psychic scars, Rudy. They don't have all the chokes.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing. These older guys, even Tiger, they're trying to live down the mistakes they've made publicly that they've been disgraced for on television and the internet and everywhere else. Right. These kids, they don't have any of that. They're light. They're just coming in to life. They're coming into all their psychic scars, but they're just getting ready for all their pain.
They're super strong entering, but by the time they're done and it's 15, 20 years later, all of a sudden they're like, okay, I'm good. I'm scarred to death. I got to go. Speaking of got to go, great show, great segment. Love talking golf with the one and all Tucker Dale Booth, who seems to be the aficionado for all things golf. Tiger Woods, the lack of creeping Tiger Woods Twitter account, which I don't know that he's done, but if he has, I don't want to know.
Golf Stalkers Anonymous. You can check me out, Twitter, #RappersDon'tGolf. We're out there. Rappers Don't Golf. Check us out. Also, #TDB Music. Tucker Dale Booth. That's TDB Music. And #Tantrum Niche or Niche, however you pronounce that, whether you're French or English or whatnot. Tantrum Niche Records. That's Tantrum Niche, NICHE.com. Yo, check us out. Rudy, you know how it goes down. In the donut battle, I'm showing them again on Periscope. We had 2 donuts. Tucker wins the battle, 7 wins in a row, dude.
You know what?
I'm going to eat both these donuts right in Rudy's face.
He's probably going to have to. He's going to have to because he wants to win because he brought the donuts.
Well, look. So, I want people to see here. I didn't bring some half-ass donuts here. These are some quality, succulent offerings right here. I'm going to inhale this donut right in your face, Rudy, because that's how we do.
Please do.
That's right. Yo, they say good listening to us. Hey, Periscope, you guys are awesome. Shout outs to all the Tucker Dale Booth followers on Periscope. Follow along.
Yeah.
Rude Dog Reyes.
Go to Rude Dog Reyes. Go to the Rude Dog Show. Check out
Rude
the
Dog
podcast.
Show.
It's always
Hashtag
good
up
stuff.
there.
Hashtag the Rude Dog Show. It's kind of easy.
Boom.
You can find me at the Rude Dog Show on Twitter. And
Cape Town, South Africa in the house, bro. Shout out to Cape Town.
Hey, Cape Town.
For riding with us. Dude, golf fans out in Cape Town. Follow along, guys. Follow along. We'll definitely stay giving you all the golf updates that Fullerton has to offer here in California.
If you can make it out here to Fullerton, California, all the way from Cape Town.
No, I'm gonna go to Cape Town before they come into Fullerton, dude. I'm gonna come stay on your couch. Come on, let me come surf your couch.
Yeah, well, there you go. You can hear it on you can hear it on the RudDogShow.com. Thanks for tuning in. This is Rudy Reyes with Tucker Dale Booth #TDB Music, and make sure you check out the podcast. Go to SoundCloud. You can follow me anywhere. I'm on LinkedIn. You can like my stuff on SoundCloud. Go to the RudDogShow.com. This video will be posted as well as a podcast version. We were live, and now we're not. This is Rudy Reyes, Tucker Dale Booth.
Church, sweat, donut battles. Recognize.
We'll have to try something different next week.
Come on, man. I'm going to eat both of these in your face, Rudy. Yeah.
You may as well start eating. This is Rudy Reyes on the Rude Dog Show. Thanks for tuning in. Facebook Live, Periscope. Thank you, everybody. We will see you guys next week. This is Rudy Reyes on the Rude Dog Show.
Go Tiger Woods.
Thanks for tuning in.
Yeah, Periscope. We're still here.